glad to hear it. Well, welcome to Creature Featured. My name is Abby. I am an animal ambassador at your local San Antonio Zoo, and I will be your ghostly host as we talk about some animals that creep, crawl, and go bump in the night. But first, I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about our zoo. So did you guys know that our zoo is 106 years old? That's crazy, right? We're one of the oldest facilities in the United States. Now, the San Antonio Zoo is also a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So what that means is that we rely solely on our general admissions, the sales of our memberships, as well as donations to continue to provide world-class care for our animals. So has anybody done the drive-through zoo over the summer or done it recently for trick-or-treating? Can you see, show of hands, anybody done the drive-through zoo? Nobody at this one. Okay guys, well it's a ton of fun. So we had the opportunity to do our drive-through zoo a little bit earlier in the summer, and we've continued it into the Halloween season. So you guys would be able to drive through our zoo and do a little bit of trick-or-treating, all from the safety and the air conditioning of your car. It's a ton of fun. So like I said, we do rely on those general daily ticket sales to continue to provide world-class care for our animals. Now before we get started, I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Six Flags for having us. We're having a great time. Let's go ahead and give a round of applause. Thank you, Six Flags, for having San Antonio Zoo out. We're having a great time. Alrighty guys, let's go ahead and get started with our first round of animal ambassadors. So these are going to be of the feathered variety. Alright, on this side over here on my right and y'all's left, this is going to be Justin and Twig, who is our Eastern Screech Owl. And over here on this side, we're going to have Sarah and Matilda, who is our Tawny Frogmouth. Now right off the bat, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Twig. He's going to be over here on this side of stage. So Twig, like I mentioned earlier, is an Eastern Screech Owl. Wow. So these guys are a native species to Texas. You can find them here in your backyard. You're going to have to look really, really hard for them though. So not only are they going to be asleep during the day, which is when we're up and active, meaning that they're nocturnal, he's also got this really great camouflage. You can check out those feathers as he comes around. As he sleeps during the day, which usually are in big tall trees where he can blend in and hide from any other animals that think he would be a good snack, those feathers are going to keep him really, really well hidden. Now, one of my favorite facts about owls is that their eyes would be similar to us having the size of grapefruits for some of our kids, or for adults about the size of cantaloupes. So as I mentioned earlier, he is nocturnal. He does need those big round eyes to help him see at night. In fact, it's very similar to us going out at night with a flashlight. That's how well he can see at night. Now, does anybody think that owls can turn their heads all the way around a full 360 degrees? Can I see raising hands? Who says yes, full 360 degrees? Okay, I got a couple who says no, not full 360 degrees. Got a couple more. Okay, so it's really close. So he can turn his head about 270 degrees, or about 2/3 of a circle. Now the reason for that is that those big, big eyes are set in his head. He's got a really thin rim of bone that encircle his eyes, which means that he can't move his eyes around in the same way that we can. We tend to move our eyes up and down and all the way around, and Twig can't do that. They're focused straight forward. So he makes up for that by being able to turn his head 270 degrees, or 2/3 of a circle. Now I talked about his feathers a little bit earlier, and I'm going to touch on them again. So not only do they provide a great camouflage for him while he's sleeping during the day, but they're also fringed on the ends. And what that means is that they provide him with silent flight. Twig's very cute, very small. However, he is still a bird of prey. He is an intense predator. So those feathers allow him for silent flight, which he's able to sneak up on his prey, things that tend to be little animals with big ears, like rodents, mice, and rats. And then he's going to use those really, really strong talons to grip down on anything that he might want to eat. As Twig comes around, you can see that Justin is using protective equipment. Again, Twig is really cute, really small. However, it is important that we consider our safety because his talons have an incredible grip. Now, we also get a lot of people that ask, is Twig a baby? Twig is not a baby. He is fully grown at this size. In fact, we estimate Twig to be in his mid to late teens. Twig came to the San Antonio Zoo in about 2004 from a local rehabilitation center where he sustained an injury that was not able to release him into the wild. He wouldn't be able to survive on his own if he was released. So since 2004, Twig has been with us as an ambassador to the species. Now over here, I'm going to talk about Matilda and Sarah a little bit. So while Matilda kind of looks like Twig, she's got that same really pretty mottled gray and brown feathers that keep her camouflaged. She's a very, very different type of hunter. Now Matilda is also going to be an animal that eats other animals, so she is a carnivore. But she is going to sit and wait for her prey to come close to her. As she comes around, she's got that really cool flock of feathers. Those are called phyloplumes. Now, as she sits and waits and she camouflages against anything like trees, she's gonna wait for those prey items to come by and kind of ruffle those phyloplumes, and then she's gonna snap out really fast and eat up whatever she can. Now, tawny frogmouths get their name because they have incredibly wide and very yellow mouths. Her beak actually starts where her eyes do, so if you get the chance as she comes around to kind of see exactly where that mouth opens, it's incredibly wide. However, unlike Twig, she doesn't have that same kind of grip. Her main strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is gonna be sit and wait. She's gonna pretend to be a branch by doing a behavior called stumping, which she's kind of exhibiting right now. She's just gonna wait until something comes by that she can grab really, really fast. Now, Matilda was also born at the San Antonio Zoo, where she was born to parents that are down in our Bird Alley area. As I did mention earlier, she is an Australian species, so she is not going to be native to this area. However, she does share a lot of similarities to Twig. Now, she's not a greatest flyer. Like I said, she's going to be a sit and wait kind of bird. She's not going to have the same kind of silent flight that Twig's going to have with those fringed feathers. Matilda's really going to more hop from branch to branch versus actually flying somewhere that she wants to go. One of my favorite things about Matilda as well is she comes by, her eyes are kind of squinted right now, but she's got these really big, pretty yellow eyes. Very similar to Twig's in the fact that those are what are going to allow her to see much better at night. She is also a nocturnal animal. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna give our birds a round of applause. As they go back, we're gonna bring out our next animal ambassador in just a moment. I want to touch a little bit more about our work as animal ambassadors at the San Antonio Zoo. So a lot of it relies on our working with our animal collection every single day. We are hands-on with all of the animals that we work with because we are able to bring them out into a setting such as this. Now what that means is we rely on a lot of positive reinforcement training. And what that means is we are going to give these animals something that they really, really like when they do something that we ask. So for those of you out in the audience, especially our smaller kids, if mom or dad say, hey, I'd really like you to clean your room today, and you do it, and you get something really great, ice cream, candy, something that you really, really like, it's going to increase the frequency that you're going to want to do that, right? So it's very similar for our animals. As we work with them during the days and bring them out into situations such as these where we can do several behaviors with them, then we usually tend to give them things that they like. And a lot of that is incorporated into their diets on a very daily basis. So our next ambassador is gonna head out, and some of his favorite things to eat are gonna be fruits and veggies. And he is also a native species, and usually nocturnal or crepuscular, meaning that they're gonna be more active at dawn and dusk. So this is Elmer, and he is our North American porcupine. Elmer is one of my favorites in our ambassador animal collection. So as he comes around, you guys notice he's got that really big, cute nose and really small eyes. So these guys are really gonna rely on their sense of smell to get a better sense of their environment. They don't have great eyesight. And he's also gonna have those really pretty long blonde feeler quills. So we get a lot of questions about him. People are like, he looks really fuzzy, right? I can touch him. So unfortunately, that's not the case. These feeler quills are made of the same protein as our hair, so it's made out of keratin. However, they're going to be much, much different than our hair. They're gonna be a lot stiffer, not nearly as flexible. And they're kind of gonna act as whiskers on a cat. They're gonna kind of give him a better sense of what's around him as he moves around. He's gonna be able to feel things with those feeler quills. Now, as we kind of focus here on the the tail end, so tail end tends to be business end. I'm sure you folks on the side can see a little bit more. He is covered in 30,000 quills. So we can see some of these here at the base of his tail, these shorter, sharper quills that are really going to do the damage when he feels threatened or defensive in any kind of situation. So what Elmer is going to do if he feels threatened is he's going to tense up really, really tight, and that's going to allow for these quills to stand up completely straight. So very similar to our hair, they're not embedded very deeply in the surface of his skin. So if anything were to kind of brush past him while he's tensing down, those quills are going to come out super, super easily. Now that kind of gives him the misnomer of an animal that shoots his quills. That's actually not possible for us. It would be like us holding our nose when we sneeze and all of our hair falling out. It's not going to be the same case. However, they do come out very easily. In fact, over here, as he kind of shook, whatever he was doing over here, in fact, we had a couple quills come out. They shed every single day and do regrow, very similar to our hair does. Now, those quills also have barbs on the end of them, which are incredibly painful. Take it from personal experience. They are going to be what really embeds in the skin. So it's going to be a great defensive tactic, especially from animals that he doesn't necessarily want around him. They're going to get those barbs, get those quills stuck really deep and tight, and they're probably not going to want to mess with the porcupine again. I'm sure a lot of you have seen pictures of dogs, especially in the area that might smell porcupines and go after them and get those quills. So these guys are very, very stinky. We usually get a lot of questions when we're out traveling with him about what exactly we have in a crate. And again, that's another defensive tactic. He's letting other animals know that I stink. You probably don't want to eat me or mess with me in general. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Elmer's some of favorite items to eat are going to be produce, so fruits and veggies. Bananas tend to be a favorite. He also gets things like broccoli and celery and apples. He's also provided something called rodent block, which is a diet specifically made for rodents. If I didn't mention earlier, Elmer is a rodent. As he comes around, you can kind of see those long teeth there in his mouth. He's actually the second largest rodent in the United States, the first being the beaver. Now, unlike beavers, these guys are actually more likely to climb. You can kind of check out those long, strong nails as he walks around. These guys are well-known climbers. They'll go up into trees, and they actually tend to go towards the ends of trees where the new growth is. And unfortunately, are also known to fall pretty often. Usually because of their body size, though, they're very sturdy. Elmer is probably a larger porcupine. I'm sure those of you who lived here in San Antonio for a long time have maybe seen these guys in the very early hours of the morning. They tend to be a lot smaller. Elmer is definitely on the larger end of the scale. Usually weighs anywhere between 25 to 27 pounds. He is fully grown at this size. Elmer's about 5 years old. All right, so as Sarah and Elmer exit our other direction, we'll go ahead and give them a round of applause. Thank you, Elmer. All right, so as our next animal ambassador gets ready to come out, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about our ambassador collection. So again, our biggest part of our jobs is going to events such as these and talking to people about our animals. As I mentioned earlier, Elmer is a native species and so is Twig. And it's always really important that we're keeping a watch out for these guys. Twig also came to us from a rehabilitation center where it's theorized that he probably sustained an injury when he was much younger and therefore was unable to be releasable. And because of that, lives with us at the San Antonio Zoo. Now, it's always really important as we're traveling, especially right now, to make sure that we keep a lookout for these guys. They are a native species. They do tend to be on our roadsides. And it's always, again, really important to make sure that we're keeping an eye out for them. So we're gonna bring in our next animal ambassador out here in just a moment. And this is one of my favorites to talk about. So this is Scarlet, and she is our red-tailed boa. Now, believe it or not, Scarlet is actually maybe the fourth largest snake that we work with. And when I say fourth largest, she's probably about 7.5 to 8 feet. And even what's more is that she is not even fully grown at this size. Snakes do continuously grow throughout their lives. And red-tailed boas can get anywhere from 10 to 15 feet long. As I said, Scarlet is a red-tailed boa or a common boa constrictor. So what that means is that she is not venomous, so she doesn't strike out or bite anything and inject a venom. What she does instead is she lies in wait, very similar to Matilda, like we talked about earlier. She's gonna lie in wait for something to come by that she can reach out and snatch up really, really fast. Now she has got a pretty wicked set of teeth. They're all backwards curving, very similar to push hooks, so that when she does hold on to something, it's very, very hard for it to get away. So after she reaches out, she bites down really hard, she's got it, she's gonna pull it in, and then she's gonna squeeze it. It's a very, very unfortunate hug, but she's gonna squeeze it until she feels like she can swallow it. Now it's a pretty common myth that you can see the shapes of things that snakes eat as they swallow them. It's usually depicted in, cartoons when they swallow houses, rakes, things like that. You can see the shape as the animal digests it, but that's not entirely the case. These guys are pure muscle, so as they eat something and swallow it, that muscle compresses that item down, and you can't usually see the shape as they swallow it. So while we're on the subject of snakes eating, I'm going to have my lovely assistant Sarah come out. We're going to talk about how snakes eat. So Sarah's going to put her hands out together, and for those of you on the audience, we invite you to do the same. We're going to sing Baby Shark now. Just kidding, we're definitely not. So as we talk, we only move our bottom jaws. So we're all going to move that lower hand. This is how we talk, it's kind of boring. So then for snakes, not only can they use that lower jaw, but they can also use that upper jaw. Right? Already pretty scary. And what's more, they have a ligament on both sides of their mouth that allows them to spread their jaws even wider. So that allows for these guys to swallow something about 4 times the size of their head. That would be like us eating a watermelon, which is certainly not advisable. But it's a great adaptation for these guys, especially since they tend to eat things that we consider pests, rats and other rodents. And they're gonna be what kind of keeps those animals away from our houses, out of our houses. So if you ever tend to see a smaller snake in your backyard, I know a lot of people tend to be really, really scared of these guys. However, when you see snakes around, that means that they're just doing their job. They're a great ecological marker, which means that you see one, that means the environment around you is doing pretty well because they have an animal that is providing that service of kind of cleaning up all of the pest animals that we don't necessarily like to have around. So we always like to say, if it's around your house, go ahead and leave it alone. It's doing its job, and it's always important to make sure that we are respecting that animal's distance, not only socially distancing amongst ourselves, but also giving this animal the respect and distance that it deserves to kind of do that job that we don't really want to do. It's also important to note, as I mentioned earlier, Scarlet's not fully done growing yet. 7.5 to 8 feet long, and she's not quite done. We also like to talk about pet responsibility at the San Antonio Zoo. These guys are really cute when they're babies and they're little and you want to bring them home. And then you end up with an animal the size of Scarlet and you don't quite know what to do with it anymore. So we always like to talk about doing your research before bringing an animal such as Scarlet into your home. Because we of course want to make sure that we are practicing safe and responsible pet ownership and making sure that we are fully doing our research before bringing an animal home. So once again, we'd like to give a huge shout out to Six Flags. Thank you so much for having us. We're having a great time. We hope that you guys are too. As you guys wander about today, we do have these signs scattered throughout the parks that have QR codes on the front of them. You're more than welcome to scan them with your phones. It will provide discounted tickets. You can also visit our booth on the outside of the theater as you guys make your exit. And we always invite you to come up to the edge of the stage if you guys would like to take pictures or ask any more questions. We would absolutely love to talk to you about our animals. So once again, thank you guys for coming. Have a great rest of your afternoon.